Shalom Avracha, welcome to the weekly Shiur, Zera Shimshon. Today is Yud Daled L'Chodesh Elul, Thursday, Parshas Ki Savo Tavshin Pei Vav. This week, Parshas Ki Savo, we are going to read the Toichacha, the Klalas of this week's Parsha of Mishnah Torah. And the Tachlis is, when we read these Parashas before Rosh Hashanah in order, Ish Tichle Shana V'Kilel Loiseha Tachel Shana Obir Chaiseha. The world of Klalas should come to an end. There should be soifikates for anything that's considered a Klala, even on the smallest level. And it'll be a Yoir mit Hashem of Tachel Shana Obir Chaiseha, a year of only Bracha, only Shefa Toiv, and only B'suras Toivos. We'll learn a piece in Zera Shimshon Ois Yud and be makdim. What's the understanding that we read the Toich this week to be Tichle Shana V'Kilel? Some explain, like we have a concept of Kala Oisik B'Parshas Oila Kilu Hikra Oila. We learn from a pasuk in a time in history when we don't have karbonos, we don't have the option of actually getting an animal and putting it on the mizbeach. Then we read the Parsha of Oila, and that's considered as if we did it. The same applies to the Klalas that we got to read this Shabbos. Through reading the Klalas, then that'll be considered that Klal Yisrael went through all the Klalas that they read, and that will cause that they won't need to Chas v'Shalom go through them physically. And that will be Tachel Shana Obir Chaiseha, and be Tichle Shana V'Kilel Loiseha, because we read the Klalas, and that will be enough. And the understanding obviously is it's not just enough reading the Psukim, it's the Hisoros that a person gets from reading the Toichacha, from reading the Klalas. It's an awakening call to understand the cycle of Galus, the cycle of life. When we serve the Eibishter B'chikoisei Telechu, then we get bracha, like we say in Krishma every day, when V'hoyim Shemoya, then when Nesati B'tar Artzchem Be'itoi, but when Tishamru Lachem, Pen Yiftel Avavchem, then B'chara Af Hashem B'chem. And this is what we have to understand, Parshas Ki Savo. When we understand that, then by reading the Toich itself, that will end all the Klalas, and the Yoir mit Hashem will start off with only brachas. But there's an observation, and this is what we'll learn the piece in Zera Shimshon, which is really a Toich digger shtickle. The last pasuk of the Toichacha here in Parshas Ki Savo is by Shivcha Mitzrayim. We'll go back to Mitzrayim. They will sell you for servants, for slaves, for shvachos, maid servants. Nobody will even want to buy you. That's the end of the Toichacha. And there's a question asked. We don't normally finish the Toichacha on such a sad note. In Parshas Bechikoisai, when we had the Toichacha, right at the end, after all the Klalas, the Psukim read, V'schartis Brisi Yankov, V'avis Brisi Yitzchak, V'avis Chatle Brisi Rishonim. We finish off on a good note, and here we finish off in not such a happy note. So I once heard a pshat that the pasuk is really saying something positive. You think you can go to Golus, you can think you can mingle with the Goyim, and you'll become one of them, you can assimilate. It's not going to work. They want to sell you for servants and maid servants. They won't buy you because you don't fit in. A Yid will never fit into society of the Ummah Olam. It's never going to work. It's a misfit. We are so different than the Goyim that there'll be no koine, because everybody will feel this is not matim. This doesn't fit for me. And that's a blessing in disguise that we don't fit in. And that is the secret to all the anti-Semitism. It's all there because there ain't koine. We can't fit in. And that is Ma'ir Yid, that he should understand that he doesn't fit in into the world of Goyim. He is different. He is holier. He has a neshama kedosha, and therefore he lives a different type of life. And that's the biggest bracha. That's the bracha in disguise here in koine. Let's learn the piece of Zera Shimshon, Ois Yud, the short piece. Zog the Heilige Zera Shimshon, when we learn this piece, will be mamtik, and Chas v'Shalom, we won't have to go through this by anybody. There's a Messiah, which means there's a Sefer called Sefer Messiah that tells us there's 5 words that are identical and they have a connection. And this is the Messiah. We have 5 times in the Torah the word Rachel. We have many more. But the Sefer Messiah takes out 5 to say there's a drasha that has to be learned from these 5. One is Rachel boim atzoin. Rachel comes with the sheep. Next is Rachel hoisa yefas toyar. Then we have another pasuk that yiftach es rachma Rachel akara. Leah Imenu had children. Rachel is barren. 4th pasuk, V'Rachel lokcha es hatrofim. Rachel stole avodah zara, or whatever it was, from Lavan, her father. The 5th one is Va'acha nigash Yoitze v'Rachel va'yishtachavu. Rachel and Yosef bow down to Esav. These are the 5 Rachels that I mentioned. Rachel came with the sheep. Rachel was beautiful. Hashem opened up the womb of Leah to have children, and Rachel was Akara. Number 4, Rachel stole the Trophim. Number 5, Rachel and Yosef bowed down to Esav. What's the connection between these 2 5? What's the message? What this is all about? Rachel, as we know, is a name given to the collective Klal Yisrael. There's a Nishmas Klal Yisrael called Knesset Yisrael, and that's called Rachel. As the Pasuk says, Rachel mevaka al banel. Klal Yisrael are called the banim of this neshama keleles called Knesset Yisrael. There's a concept called Knesset Yisrael, and Rachel represents that idea. So 5 things happened with this neshama keleles called Knesset Yisrael, called Rachel. Number 1, Shekasha nichnasu Yisrael le'eretz Yisrael. When we came to Eretz Yisrael in the best of times, V'Rachel boim atzoin. Klal Yisrael came with a tzoin, meaning they came to Eretz Yisrael with a tzoin asher la'aviyah. What's the concept of tzoin? Klal Yisrael are called tzoin. K'mo shenema ve'etan tzoini tzoin marisi adam atem. Klal Yisrael are called tzoin. Tzoin means they follow. They are mavatal themselves. They are nichna. That was a good time in history. Ki roya hi. That's Rachel brought us to Eretz Yisrael. Kloima, hoyse roya sanu, and Klal Yisrael were grazed in the best place. That was a good time in the history of the world. V'al shmoinoide basharim. Everybody praised Rachel, praised Knesset Yisrael. V'yalu v'shamchua shabanes Beis Hamikdash. V'haya Hashem imam l'shemelo teferes u'letehillah. Everybody looked up to Klal Yisrael. And that's the 2nd pasuk. Rachel was beautiful in the way she looked and the way she was made, which means Yefas Toya. Her features were beautiful, like Kadosh Baruch Hu. The double lashon means in the eyes of Hashem, they were Yefas Toya, Yefas Mare, Lomas Oilam. Number 3, and this is the one we want to be mamtik, learning Zera Shimshon. Ma'asa Kadosh Baruch Hu. There was a time in history where Yiftach Hashem es Rachma v'Rachel Akara. Rachel wasn't giving birth to children. Why? Why is that a good thing? Because Rabbeinu Begamara, sometimes that's a good thing. The leib's to upheaten. We said in Ashtoira, Roni Akara lo yalada. Be happy. Akara, they're not giving birth. And that's a good thing. Rejoice about that. Frank Gemara, why is one rejoicing when the Chas v'Shalom don't have children? Shemini lo yalada, Roni. In a time when the generation was going off the beaten path, derailing, the children that were being born were just going to Gehenna, then Hashem did a favor. And Hashem said, okay, that's it. We're not going to have more children. It's not worth it. The children are not doing well. And then there was a Rani Akara Lo Yalada. And this was a Tekufa in the history when Rachel was Akara, which means it was a favor. It was a toiva. And this is obviously only a toiva under the circumstances that the situation was so bad that it was better not to raise children in such a generation. But sometimes in such a situation, and there's been such times in our history, that it was a favor, it was a toiva. But these people didn't have children because the children would have chas v'shalom gone off the path. That's the 3rd Rachel. Amnon Keshachati Yisrael of the Avodah Zarah. Then Klal Yisrael started to do Avodah Zarah. That's the next Rachel. It says, "For Rachel lokcha es hatrofim." Rachel took the trofim, which is Avodah Zarah. They started to be involved in sin, in looking elsewhere, not being the tzoyin that he's supposed to be, not being a tzoyin that follows the Eibishter. Oh, what happened then? Nishtabdu begodos. Then we started to bow down to Umas Olam. If we don't bow down to Hashem, we're not the bechin of Rachel Boy Matzoin, and then we start getting involved in Avodah Zarah. What's going to end up is that we're going to bow down to the Umas Olam, which means the Goyim are going to take us over. They're going to conquer us, and we will be nichna to them. As the shtabdu begalus, v'hoy avodim, we turn into avodim, k'moshe kosov, it's makaratem sham, the last words of the Teichacha, loivechal avodim v'neshvachos. And that's the final Rachel. V'zehu v'achan nigash, yoytze v'rachel v'ishtachavu. We are going to bow down to Esav. We're going to be nichna to Esav, Rachmana litzlan. That's going to be the Teichacha. These are all curses. These last two are the last three. But when we learn these Teichacha, we are zoicha that this Kriya itself will be enough, and this will help, as Hashem is barach, that there won't be such a concept of Rachel Akara Lo Yelada. Every single Yiddish mama will give birth to children, gesund children, healthy children, children that are Mekadesh Shem Shemayim, children that bring nachas to the parents, children that bring nachas to the Eibishter. Though the Eibishter help which bezoicha, the schus of the Heilige Zera Shimshon Yagab Adenu, Tichle Shana V'Kilesel, Tachel Shana Birchaisel. We should have a year of bracha and shefa and aksiva chesima toiva. V'Hashem Yemalei Kol Mishalos Libeinu LeToiva. Kol Tov Good Shabbos.